guys, Grant Kemp here from CreativeCashFlow.com. Right now, what I want to talk about is a little bit of negotiations, how we're going to close the deal, okay? Because this is one of the most important parts to your investing career is your ability to close a deal with somebody. When you're in front of a seller, what are going to be the it factors? What are going to be the things that make that seller say yes? And you have to push really hard to know your stuff, to know what you're doing so that you can provide the correct path for their brain to go down that ends up with them signing a contract with you. So let's get into that a little bit. The first thing when you're talking about how to close a sale that you need to know is who are you? Who are you, okay? And I know that's a very existential question to ask, but it's the most important thing that you can have in front of you whenever you're getting into these negotiations. And I want you to watch the negotiation series because there is going to be a lot more in-depth talk about specific phrasings, about what situations you might hit with FAQs, that kind of thing. And we'll get into that in the negotiation series, but this is like your 30,000 foot view. This is where we're really discussing the basics, the foundation that lead to being a good closer. Who are you is the most important thing that you can have in your heart whenever you're going into this negotiation, because if you stick to that, and you have a consistency in your pitch and a consistency in what you're doing in front of your seller, that comes across, and that comes across with confidence, and that's going to be the thing that allows them to understand that you're the person that they want to work with, right? You have to be very clear with yourself before you can be very clear with them. And clarity, at the end of the day, is the end-all be-all when it comes to sales. Clarity is it, okay? Just as an example here, we had a presidential race, and depending on when you're watching this, depends on how long ago that was, but Donald Trump wins the presidential race, okay? And all I can say about that from a marketing perspective, from a pitch perspective, from a closing perspective, is I will ask all of you watching this video, when you were, seeing Trump's pitch, what was Trump going to do when he got into office? What was Trump going to do when he got into office? Some of you are going to joke, oh, he's going to build a wall. But no, really, what was he pitching? Trump was going to make America great again, right? That was his pitch. That was who he was, and he was clear on that. And the beauty about that phrasing is that make America great again means something different to you than it does to me, but it was a clear message that said that he was going to make America great again, and you got to fill in how that affected you. And that's what got a lot of people on his side. Similarly, you look back, you look at Obama. What was Obama going to do when he got into office? He was going to have change, right? Change was his clarity. Now, change was something that you got to define for yourself, but it was a clear message of what he was going to do. The president has thousands and thousands and thousands of things that they're going to do over the next 4 to 8 years. But their ability to get into office hinged on the clarity, hinged on them being able to boil down who they were into a single statement, somewhat of a mission statement to get across to people. Now, for those of you who experienced this race, I ask, what was Trump going to do when he got into office? He was going to make America great again. What was Jeb Bush going to do? Can't really answer that. And the problem is that Jeb Bush actually gave a realistic view of what was going to happen in presidency. Jeb Bush's pitch was, look, there's too many things going on in presidency over the next 4 to 8 years. I can't name them all. I got to do this reform and this and that and the other, and I'm going to get them all done. But that wasn't clear. And that wasn't a message that really sent who he was in one clear message across. And so Jeb Bush was not in the race. Donald Trump won. When Obama was running, he was going to commit change. What was Hillary going to do? I know they were both on the Democratic side, but Hillary, similar. She didn't have who she was clarified into a single statement that she could get across to people, right? So this is very important for you to understand from a marketing perspective, from a closing perspective. You have to understand very clearly who you are and what you're going to be so that you can convey that to the seller and that they can trust you and that they can define that you're the person that they want to work with, okay? So I really want you to evaluate that about yourself so that you can be a proper closer. Now, I pitch so much and I talk so much about the closing ability because the closing ability, I always say, I'm not the most amazing marketer in the world. I'm not. But I'm a phenomenal negotiator. I may only get 8 calls on my marketing, but I'm going to buy 5 to 8 houses off of those calls, right? This is why. It's because I'm clear, I know who I am, and I'm that way the entire time that we're in the negotiation. So your first step is going to be to figure out who you're going to be. Ethics and disclosure are a requirement. Ethics and disclosure are going to be huge in this. Now, I want you to really take that to heart because it's really easy for a lot, especially wholesalers, but investors in general feel like they have to sweep some things under the rug. They feel like they have to present to the seller in the way that the seller wants it. One of the prime examples of what I'm just going to smack out of you right from the beginning is I hate when a new investor gets asked the question by the seller, well, what's in this for you? Why are you doing this? And the investor says, well, I love helping people. I really like helping people. Get that. If you really liked helping people, you would be working for the Red Cross. If you really liked helping people and that's why you were doing this, you would be at a nonprofit organization, and that's not what you're doing. You chose an industry that's going to make you a lot of money. That's what you chose to do. Now, helping people, of course, we help people, and I love that. I do. But it is a secondary thing. It is a secondary benefit to the fact that you're going to make a lot of money. So don't pass that by. Be ethical. Let people know why you're in this industry. Sure, you want to help people. There's been one student that I've ever had, and I've trained 70 plus people in how to do this real estate game. I do personal mentoring and training and that kind of stuff. There's been one student that I allowed to hit that pitch that they were here to help people, because that's the only time that I've ever actually believed somebody, that I ever actually believed that they were here. Everybody else, y'all are lying, okay? And be very clear with the seller, because we get a positive response from that. And we'll get into that a little bit further. But that is part of your ethics. Don't sweep anything under the rug. Don't act like you're in this for some reason that you're not. Properly disclose everything that's going on down to your motivation, and including what's going to happen in the future, what their risks are. If you're a wholesaler, tell them you're a wholesaler. Tell them what you're doing. You just have to pitch it in the right way. Watch our negotiation series to figure out how you can pitch, hey, I'm wholesaling this to a seller in a way that they're going to be okay with. And that they're going to be saying, okay, cool. So you're not going to be the guy buying it from me, but you know the people who are. That's okay. Disclose everything. Be ethical. Read up, guys. One of the big principles that I learned in the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book, which was one of the very precursors that got me into this real estate game, was if you're going to get into this business and you want to make money, learn how to make money. Learn how money works. Learn how this is going to work. Tom Brady did not become one of the best quarterbacks ever just naturally. He studied, and he studies on a weekly basis, and he does his best, and he figures out the methods and the game and what it's going to take to get to the level where he is. You're not just going to go out there and be good at real estate. You're not just going to go out there and understand how money works. You're not just going to go out there and know how to close deals. This is something that you have to do as an action, to study. That's why you're watching these videos, and I applaud you for that. I encourage that, because that's where you need to be, is you need to be studying the craft and understanding what it takes to close, understanding how negotiations work. You may be pretty good at negotiating naturally, okay? But don't rely on that. Understand that no matter how good you are at something, there's always somebody that's better. And there's always something that you might be able to learn on one specific aspect of your negotiation, and take that to heart and use that for yourself. One of the turning points in my negotiating career was this book, Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. It's written by a guy, Dr. Robert Cialdini, I think is how you pronounce his last name, Cialdini. Cialdini. It is phenomenal. It is the stepping stone, is the cornerstone of my negotiating career, because it's an actual true look at psychologically what causes people to say yes and no. And if you read through that with the intent in your mind of saying, how can I use these principles in my own negotiating as I'm working with a seller, I can almost guarantee you that your negotiations are going to go 10 times better, right? Learn from pros, study it, get good at this stuff. This is only step one. You've got a lot of negotiating, you've got a lot of practice, you've got a lot of study that's going to go into being a good closer. You also need to stick to who you are, and you need to not falter for any reason, especially greed. Okay? I'm going to encourage every one of you to sit down and actually make a mission statement for who you want to be, for who you want your company to be. okay? Something that I include in every one of my company's mission statements is that we're going to do the right thing, especially when it's not in our favor, right? Because regardless of what's going on, that's going to come around, and that's going to, we need to be the change that we want to see in this industry. We get a lot of flack from sellers. We get a lot of flack from the outside world because investors are not known as the kindest and most ethical people in the world. But we can be ethical. We can do the right thing. We can present everything in a proper and ethical manner and still make a ton of money. And if you make that your personal mission, that's going to be the thing that separates you from other people too. Because if you really evaluate that and you really turn that into who you are, which I encourage you to do, people are going to see that. And as you're in your negotiations, and as you stick to that, and as you're honest about things, they're going to read right through it. Because what happens with me a lot of times is I get in front of a seller and I'm doing my negotiation and they ask, "Hey Grant, why are you doing this?" And I say, "Look, hey, this puts food on my family," or on my family, like we're at a Japanese bar that has sushi on, ladies. This puts food on my table. I'm here because this feeds my family, okay? It makes me good money and I get to help people out. It's very clear with them, hey, I'm in here to make money. And by the way, as we'll get into in a second, that helps your negotiations later on. So if they sit there and they have me give them that response, and they've got 3 other investors that come in and they talk to them and they say, "Hey, Investor A, why are you doing this? What's this in it?" "Well, I love helping people. I really love helping people." "Hey, I need you to give me this house at $60,000 even though it's worth $80,000. Right? They read right through that crap. So stop feeding them that. Give them the honest truth. And when you do that and you stick to yourself and you don't falter off of that, they respond. Now, the other side of that is that there's going to be times where it becomes very tempting because you're going to see in front of you an opportunity to make a ton of money, and all it requires is for you to just not tell them about this one thing, okay? And it may be very minor. Or, maybe you're going to be encouraged to, whatever, things that I'll see other investors do sometimes. Maybe you need to change a date on a contract, or you wanted to do this, or you want to do that. And I see all kinds of unethical, terrible things happening that are small decisions. And you need to be very aware that there's going to be some very small decisions that are going to change who you are if you make them. And I want to encourage you to stick to the straight line on that, because again, at the end of the day, not only are you doing the right thing, but it's going to come through in your negotiations, and that's the guy that people want to work with. The person who is willing to stick to their guns, and those guns being doing the right thing. That's who people want to work with. And I'll tell you what, you may get beaten out at some point in time by somebody who's running their business unethically. But that's going to come around and that's going to be on them. What's on you is to do what you can do to be right. And that will come around and that'll be on you. And you're going to get a lot of business from that, trust me. Use what you got. When it comes to closing deals, use what you got, okay? We're in a marketing industry, and I'm sorry I have to be very non-PR or PC in a lot of ways when it comes to this, okay? If you are an attractive female, be an attractive female. If you're a charming guy, be a charming guy. If you got a lot of money, have a lot of money. Are you African American? Go to African American areas. It's whatever you have. There are people that want to work with somebody that is like them. And again, I know it's very non-PC to speak about this, but it's the truth of it. When in marketing, people want to work with people that they think of themselves as connected with. And a lot of times, it comes down to something very superficial to get that done. Capitalize on that. Understand who you are. I mean, this is all coming down to figuring out who you are and working with that. I am not the best marketer in the world, right? Like I said, but I know how to close a deal. And I know I can charm when I'm in front of that person. And so I use that. That's my power. That's my secret weapon, right? Is I can charm my way into things. I can explain myself. If I can get in front of somebody, I can talk them into selling me that house at what they, whatever price it is. Your superpower may be different than mine. You may just have a ton of money that you can throw around. Sling it. Show up in your fancy car, whatever you want to do. Find that thing, find that hook that it's going to be for you and work it. And use that as your marketing and use that as part of your closing. It's going to help you get that closing done. Always be closing. This goes back to that old Alec Baldwin movie, right? Coffee is for closers. People are going to spend 4 to 5 hours talking at you. They're going to talk at you, right? You're not having a conversation. You're not talking with them. They're going to talk at you about their situation and what's going on and blah, 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 blah. And you got to understand that this is your business. You're there for a reason. And they understand that. You don't need to just allow them to continue talking at you forever just in the interest of rapport. You do need to let them feel like they're heard. But it's also your job to steer the conversation. Steer that conversation back to where you need to be to get to the ultimate point, which is a signature on that contract, right? You've got to be closing the deal at all times. So you've got to control the conversation. Slow is okay, right? One of the sayings in racing is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. If you can build that rapport over time and you can allow them to talk at you some and you can really understand what they're saying and nod with them, and then just wait for a pause in the conversation and say, okay, well, so back to this, and just get back into it. You can always be putting it back to that business aspect of it. And again, sellers respond and they appreciate that. By controlling that conversation and where the things are going and moving it back to the transactional side of this, they're not going to be mad. They're not going to throw you off. I've had a couple of sellers, and you've got to feel this out yourself, right? I've got a couple of sellers that I've been at for 4 or 5 hours. But the majority of the time, I'm in and out of my appointments within an hour with a signed contract, okay? And I'm getting deals at huge discounts. And I'm getting people to just sign their mortgages over to me. You gotta have your end result in mind at all times. You are always closing. From the moment they open that door to let you in, everything you say is a precursor to closing or is part of the closing. You're going to be throwing little bits of information out at them as you're speaking, right? Here's one prime example. Right from the beginning, as you're explaining the process and why you're there, you're going to say things like, when we sign the contract today, I'm going to go ahead and take this to my title company and then we'll be able to move forward from there, right? Real quick, real easy, non-confrontational, but lets them understand, hey, I've got a contract in my bag and I plan to leave with it signed. Little stuff like that. It's never if you decide to sell your house to me. It's when we close on this, I will allow you to do this, or I'll need you to get out and blah, 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 blah. When we close, when we sign, I've got the contracts here today, we're ready to go. That is an always be closing moment. And you can start that conversation from the minute you walk into the door. Okay, well, let me take a look around here because, at the end of the day, after we sign the contract, I just need to know where my repairs are, right? Very subtle, but we're closing. Be upfront. What is your motivation? I've harped on this a lot, but really understand what your motivation is. And it might not be money. It might honestly not. But likelihood it is. Likelihood if you've spent the money to watch this series of videos and you're wherever you're getting from, you're in this industry because it's going to make you money. You're not in this industry because it's helping people or because you think it's fun. If you really look at the core, that's what it is. But you need to understand what your motivations are because they may be different, honestly. I just want you to be very comfortable and honest with yourself about that because a lot of people are not honest with themselves about that. Sellers respond very positively to your own financial motivation. And this is what I was talking about earlier. This cuts off a lot of the negotiations at the knees. One of the things that I see the problem with saying, oh, I'm doing this because I'm helping people, is that later on in your negotiation, when it comes down to actual dollars, when it comes down to actually signing that contract, and you want this house at 65 and they want you to sell or to buy the house at 77, they're going to be able to say, yeah, but I really need it. My family needs this. I need to move out. I need to do this. This is blah, 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 blah. And if you told them that you were here because you wanted to help people, and then you start trying to lower the price on them, and it's not going to help them, you've discredited yourself. And now they're in the position of power, and now you're going to have to scramble to make up lost space to get that negotiation where it needs to be. When I tell them right from the beginning, I'm here because it makes good money. I'm here because it puts food on my family's table. Well, later on, when they say, man, I really need you to buy this for 77, my negotiation ends at, it just doesn't make business sense for me. I'm sorry, that doesn't make business sense for me. I have to buy this at 65 for this to make sense for me. Done, period, and they get it. And I'll tell you what, to the positive motivation, I can't tell you how many sellers of mine, because I'll tell them exactly those words. That doesn't make business sense for me, because I have to make money at this. That's why I'm here, is I have to make money. And if I buy it at 77, I'm not going to make money. And I probably 60% of the time, and I'm not exaggerating, at least 60% of the time, the seller says, oh, no, I get it. You need to make money. I want you to make money. That's cool. Because I've done proper rapport building at the beginning, right? They like me already. They understand that I'm being very upfront with them. And when I tell them I need to make money on it, they're like, no, yeah, that's why you're here. I get it. And then we start that negotiation again, and I'm able to close the deal at the price that I want. Because I set the precursor up. I set the foundation of I'm here because I need to make money, and that means that I can help you. But if it's all about me helping them, they get to determine what that means. If it's all about me making money, I get to determine what that means. Okay? So I want you to understand that. That cuts off so many long-winded conversations just by saying I'm financially motivated, but I'm glad I'll be able to help you out. Be prepared to back up your numbers. If you're going to take this stance, it's somewhat, well, I won't even say it's risky. It's something that you've got to be able to back up. I was going to say it's risky because, some people aren't financially motivated, but it's really not. You need to let them understand why you're there. One of the things that I do is I'm very upfront with my sellers about what that house is going to be worth, okay? What it's going to be worth once it's fixed up. So we may be looking at a house and I'm offering them $50,000 on it, and I'll tell them, I think once I fix this up, I'm going to be able to sell it for $100,000, right? The reason why is again, showing that honesty is why people will choose me over somebody else. I've bought probably, just in this last year to year and a half, I've bought probably 4 houses. Let's see, about 4 houses where the seller was getting an average of like $15,000 or $20,000 less by selling it to me than they were by selling it to somebody else who was making another offer. But they appreciated that I was backing up my numbers, and they appreciated that because it showed that I was the real deal, that I don't need gimmicks to get this deal. They can walk if they want. I'm here to make money, and I'm the real deal. I'm going to be the guy that can close the deal, right? That's what they get. That's the impression that they get when you're giving them this financial motivation. That's the impression they get, is they say, this guy is in it for real. And so what you're able to do, and you watch the negotiation series, I'll explain this more, but what you're able to do is you're really able to get that point across to them that, hey, that guy offered you $20,000 more, but I'm the real deal. I'm the one that's actually going to go to the closing table. I'm the one that's signing that check at the end of the day, right? They're trying to make it work, and they're doing anything they can to get you to sign that contract. I'm here to tell you that when you sign this contract, you've got your house sold. And people sell to me. I got one house for $45,000 less than the other guy because the other guy was a wholesaler, and I was able to explain all the moves that other guy was going to make. And I told the seller, look, that's fine. They might be able to do that, but here's what to look out for. Look for the and/or signs on the buyer line, which, by the way, there's one of my negotiation secrets. If I hear that there's a wholesaler in there, this is one of the big reasons why it's so advantageous to have your bat belt I always refer to, where you can close cash, you can close wholesaling, you can do sub 2, whatever. If I hear my competitor is a wholesaler, cut them off at the knees right away. And that just lets me know I need to take this house down by myself. Because what you can do is you can say, look out for that and/or assigns on the buyer side. All right? If it says and/or assigns, what they're doing is they're just contracting you at a discount, and then they're going to go out and they're going to email people, and they're going to hope that they can find me to buy this house from them for a little bit more than they bought it from you for. And then you can pull out your phone and you can show them some wholesale emails. Look, this is an example of what happens once that person buys your house. This is a wholesaler's email. This is them marketing a house that they just have contracted under an option period. Does that contract have an option period in it? How long is that? Oh, it does. Okay. Well, look out for this. Whenever they start coming through and they start saying, well, I'm going to have my contractors come look at it, or I'm going to have to those are people, those are me's. Those are people that they found that might buy the house from them. And I've had that happen. People see that start to go down. And then they're like, whoa, I don't like where this is going, and I'm able to buy the house from them for the price that I want, right? Because I encourage them not to sign the contract with them. And if we can get them all on the same board, then showing what's going to happen in the future says a lot to that seller. So again, I get closings that way, by showing them what's going to happen with the wholesaler, and then watch our negotiation series, because I'll also tell you how to combat that, right? There's a great comment that came from an attorney. I'm trying to remember where that attorney was, but anyway, I think it was one of my partner's attorneys, and he said, look, for $10,000, I will build you a contract that cannot be broken. For $30,000, I'll take it to court and break it, right? There's always a way to combat everything. So I've just shown you one side, how to come from, hey, I'm able to buy cash. If you're a wholesaler, watch the negotiation series. We'll talk a little bit more of how to present yourself from that end. But when you're backing up your numbers and you're backing up what you're telling people, one of the things that I'll do, I'll pull out my laptop. I take my laptop with me every time. And I'll pull out my laptop and I will show them the comps, and I will teach them how to comp a property. And if you're a subscriber of Propelio, you have this ability. You have the ability to pull up the MLS comps. And likely, because of how Propelio is built, if you've already put that lead in, you likely already have the comps up and ready to go. Makes it really easy for you. And you explain to them, yes, I understand that Sally Mae down the street sold her house for $170, but that house is a 4-bedroom and your house is a 3-bedroom. And here are 3 other houses in your neighborhood that are 3 bedrooms, that are within your same square footage, and they only sold for 100. And that's the number that I have to go off of. And you teach them. You give them third-party verifiable information that proves that you're not just blowing smoke at them. And a lot of times, these sellers, they're going to have had a realtor tell them what their house is worth, or they may have already gotten it appraised, and they're not telling you that. And so when you come in and you're like, yeah, I think once I fix this house up, it's going to be worth 100. They're like, okay, well, that's what the realtor told me, so this guy's telling me the truth. And then you're able to close by saying, hey, I need to buy this at 50 because you've got $25,000 worth of repairs that need to go into it, and that sort of thing. One of the really easy ways that I like to encourage people to close with whenever it comes down to buying at a discount is explaining to them, if they close with a normal transactional sale, they're only going to be walking away with 90% of what their sales price was, right? Because you got 6% to the realtors, you've got some closing costs that are typically somewhere between that 4 and 6%. So let's round that off to 10% that you have to pay to sell your house. Well, that means they're walking away with 90%. So what you can say to your seller, a quick and easy way to describe the discount that you're taking and needing is, when you sell to me, you're going to be accepting about 10 to 15% less than if you were to be the one to put all the money to fix this up, find the good realtor, put it on the MLS, wait for everybody to come view the house, keep it clean while they're doing all of that, find the right person who's going to make the offer on it, wait for their bank, and hopefully the appraisals come through and that they can actually close on it, and that closing's not going to happen for another 30 to 45 days after you get your contract. If you do all of that, you'll make your full price. That's going to be how you make your most money, flat out. But if you want to have this closed and have money in your pocket next week, you're going to accept about 10 to 15% less than that by selling it to me, which is true. Because they would walk away with 90% for selling at full retail, but I'm offering them 75 to 80%, 10 to 15% less than they would be getting at that, right? So they're walking away with not very much less, and that's a really good way to describe your discount to them. Set your expectations properly, especially when you're talking about doing a subject to transaction, especially when you're talking about something where you're going to be partnered for a long time. You need them to understand that this is a long-term relationship. The sub-2 side, you're in a marriage. And this is going to last for a long time, and you guys need to like each other, and you need to be on the same page, because you want them to understand that there may be a reason that you got to call them down the road. You're going to do everything that you can to keep that off of their plate, but there might be a reason that you need to call them. Under-promise and over-perform. I know it's going to be really tempting for you to say, oh yeah, we can close this in a week, or we can do that, or we can do that, or whatever. If you don't take that temptation and you overshoot what you think you can do and you convince them to be okay with that, when you do overperform, they're going to be a brand ambassador, and they're going to go out and they're going to tell other people about you, and you may get some leads through referrals that way. With a subject to deal, when you're buying it subject to, them buying a new mortgage or getting a new house with a new mortgage, we talk about this in our sub-2 series as well, it shouldn't be a problem, okay? Most banks at this point in time are not counting any of that sub-2 sale against their DTI. And again, watch our subject to video so that you can understand more about that situation. But that shouldn't be a problem. But again, under promise, over perform. Tell them, I can't promise anything because I don't know what the laws are going to be at the point in time whenever you try to get a new mortgage. I don't know what your debt's going to look like. I don't know what your credit score is going to look like. But I can tell you, historically speaking, our subject to sellers have had no issues going and getting a mortgage on a new house. Wholesaling, Don't lie about who's coming over, okay? I have stopped working with a lot of wholesalers who, when I show up to the door, they say, oh, just tell them that you're from the insurance company. That's not how I work. We're honest with what we're doing, okay? I've cut those wholesalers off. I don't work with them anymore. Because if I'm buying a house wholesale, the seller should know who I am. Your pitch is the fact that you know who I am as a wholesaler and the seller doesn't. So you're adding value from that. So be upfront about it. Don't lie about who's coming over. Too many people say contractors are coming over to get an estimate. Don't. Just properly set expectations up front as to who you are. In a subject to transaction, if they sell you their house subject to, they no longer get the interest deductions from that mortgage. Okay, so normally at the end of the year, there's an interest deduction that occurs from whatever interest was paid on the mortgage. Whoever's paying that mortgage is the one that gets the interest deduction. So you want to make sure that they know that. That's part of when you're closing them and letting them know everything up front. That's part of it. Stress that you're going to be the one talking to the bank. This is going to be something, again, that shows that you're in control of the situation, that shows that you know what you're doing. And what you do is you get them to sign in the contracts, which we have for you. You get them to sign a authorization to release information. You get them to sign a power of attorney. And you sign that, you send it to the bank, and you take over. Control the situation. Just like you're controlling the conversation, you need to control the transaction. Watch how to contract a seller and the rapport building videos, because those are going to be two really helpful videos in this series and trying to build your rapport and trying to close that deal as it occurs, okay? So I can't stress enough the importance of knowing how to close a deal. Knowing how to close a deal, you can get all the leads in the world. You can have 300 people call you, but if you don't know how to close, you don't know how to present yourself to that seller, it's not going to do you any good. So I encourage you to really watch this video again and again. You might pick up something different each time. Go read that book that I encouraged you to read. Watch the Rapport series and really internalize what it's going to take to be the person that the seller wants to work with. You have to be the person that the seller sees as the most capable option that they have, even if you're not offering as much money as somebody else. So internalize that, figure out who you are, learn how to negotiate, and get yourself in front of sellers and just practice this. I'm really proud of you guys for getting through all of these videos. I'm really proud of you guys for taking the steps that it takes to get to the point where you want to be. Not everybody takes those actions. So good job on watching these. Continue to watch these. I encourage you to go out to propelio.com. Look at that service that they have. You know, again, I'm not paid for these things. We've partnered up because I like what they're doing and they like what I'm doing. But I like what they're doing. So I want you to look at it. You've got a lot of really cool options there. Find us, find them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those kind of fun social media posts. Like us, share us, all that kind of fun stuff. Keep in touch. Let us know how you're doing and keep watching these videos. So until next time, we'll talk to you later.